I'm very excited to share all this nerdy business. I have spent a bunch of my life running communities, and I wish I had these tools way back then. It would have been amazing. But let me just share my screen with you, and then I'm going to talk you through. I'm going to give like a practical example so that you can sort of see it all working. But I want to help people think about the framework, how to use Notion in and AI together, because I think sometimes we get used to using Notion and then we get used to using AI in Claude or somewhere else, and then how do these worlds come together? So this is how we think about it. This diagram here is just designed to sort of explain the concept to you. So you have your personal agent, and my little guy here, his name is Al, because when AI first came out, I was reading it and I thought they were talking about a guy called Al. Turns out it's a bit more than that. So your personal agent is here, and you might see it in full screen, see it in line in the page, and that's the AI that you use all day, every day to engage with your kind of personal assistant collaborator. And then there are custom agents, which are the ones that you set up in the sidebar that run without you. You don't have to be there. While you sleep, it's doing the work. And you would have seen a lot of marketing from Notion about that over the last little while. So we think about agents as sort of like comparable to each other because they're just running the process. They're orchestrating things. They're taking your instructions and running with them. So that's one layer. Then we think about skills, and these are really the SOPs for the agents. So you might have bumped into these in other places like Claude, but they are these really key repeatable processes, especially if you're doing multiplayer, where you say, hey, this is our process as a team. AI, this is your instructions to help us follow this process, and then put it into practice. And then guides are the reference material. So like stuff that was in your company handbook, company wiki that humans needed to read to understand how you were, who you were in the world. Now AI needs to read that too. And so you kind of design it for both. So let me give you some quick examples. This is Al, and these are Al's instructions. Now, part of the gift that you're going to get in the pack today is a tool that I've made to help you set this up. It's actually an AI skill that will walk you through the process. And so you just chat with the agent and it will build the instructions for you. But you can see in here, there's a whole bunch of things. We give it special context. We give it operating principles. We give it personality and voice. We give it rules. We teach it about like where in the workspace everything lives. And then we tell it how to reference skills and how to reference guides. So this is the personal agent instructions. You can't sleep on these. If you don't have these set up in Notion, you will be having a subpar experience of what you could be getting. Now, the custom agents, which are all the rage at the moment, are the automated agents. And so here's a bunch of ours. This is all our internal stuff. So you can see we're doing things like pulling texture from meetings, capturing emails, syncing calendars. I'm going to demo to you our kind of new client flow, which I think would be really relevant for a lot of the projects that you're running. So that's the agent layer, the skills layer. So this is, again, internally for SmoothOps, which is our consulting company. These are the skills that we use with agents all day, every day. Sometimes we're using Nosy down here and saying, hey, can you capture this chat context and, or spin up this kind of client documentation for us? Other times a custom agent is calling that. But these are the skills layer. And then finally, the handbook. You've probably seen or used a bunch of these over the years, like the company wiki, the internal docs, how you think, how you work together. And, we have things like you document your process. And now, not just like, new team members need to read it when they're onboarding, but actually the AI goes and picks that document up and reads it every time it runs the skill so that it gets really excellent context. Okay, enough framework. Let's dive into a practical example. So many options for practical examples, but I thought a process where someone new wants to join your community, or, in our case, it's an inquiry, a business inquiry, and you have this piece of information usually that comes to you, an email or a LinkedIn message or something like that, and you're like, okay, what do I do with it? It kicks off. It's the trigger for a whole series of events that need to happen. And so for us, this process that we're going to have a look at, it takes a new inquiry from first contact, and then it runs the whole process through until they become a qualified lead. And so what that means is that in our Notion world, it creates a person record, a company record, the new project itself, engagement records so that we know what has been passed on to us, and then it wires them all together. So it uses the Notion databases to kind of do their magical thing and sets them up for us. And then after all that's done, it actually runs a sort of scoring against this lead to say, is this person or is this company a fit? Does this job make sense for us to try and do? So I want to show you how that works. Now, going back to the 3 layers, agents, I can ask Nosy here, hey, can you run the add new inquiry process? And it will pick up the skill and run it, and will ask me some questions so that it's got the information that it needs. But in this case, I'm going to demo to you the custom agent doing its thing, because who doesn't love a robot that does the work for you? And so here is one I prepared earlier. Now, this is kind of nerdy and you don't need to understand or be comfortable looking at all of the detail here, but this is the agent telling us what it's done. What we might do first is have a quick look at the settings. So the custom agent gets triggered by something kicks it off. And in our case, it might get triggered by a form that gets filled in. And so a new inquiry lands in the inquiries database. It might get triggered by an email, in this case from Notion, from the Notion marketplace saying, hey, you've got a new potential job. Or it might be triggered by me labeling an email, one of my emails, and saying, hey, this is a new client. But what that does is it kicks the AI agent off, and then it starts running its instructions. So these instructions here are where it calls the skill, but you can see it's going, oh, I got a new partner email from Notion. Then I run this skill and I do this, follows its process, right? So then you've got the instructions. And the other thing to understand about custom agents is they have their own permissions. So they're an instance of AI. So you have to say you're allowed to see this and you're not allowed to see this, etc. And you can choose the model. So that is the custom agent doing its thing. And if we have a look here, this is an example of it running in practice. So you can see it, I sent the email to myself, which was a bit weird, but I couldn't find another email address to send it from. So it created a Tim Jeffries. Not sure we need any more in the world, but it created the company. So here's like the company record. It's added the email address. It's spun up this is mythical, by the way. I just totally made this company up this morning, but it has created a new project called Bridgeway Logistics. It's created their engagement. And so you can see like, this is the email to tell us, hi, Tim, blah, blah, blah. This is all the stuff that we want to know about. We want you to know about our job, all the kind of details that we might need. And so they're set up. Now, if you're anything like me, you would have liked to have thought that you would have always followed this process and done it in the past, but you didn't. And you'd get halfway through the job and realize, oh, I haven't set it up properly and whatever. Now the agent kind of does it all for us. And so that's the first part of the process. And then the second bit is it actually runs the lead qualification. So I want to show you how it picks up a skill. Now, skills, these pages look really complicated, but actually it gets a bit meta here, but you get AI to write its own skills, its own instructions list. You explain to it what you need, and then you say, hey, can you formulate this into a skill for me? So you can see here, there's a big page that defines things like, this is the process, these are the inputs, these are the safeguards, all of those kinds of things. But it means that every time it gets triggered, it uses the same process, really consistent, really formulaic, and helps you kind of do the work. And then the same for qualifying the lead. So it actually picks up the lead and says, great, now that this person exists, I need to work out if they're a good fit or not. And this is one of the amazing things that AI can do. It can actually say, all right, I've got the information, I've got the context about who this person is and what their job is. And then it uses a guide, which is our kind of qualification rubric and scoring guide. And so there's a whole bunch of rules here about these people make good clients and these people don't, score it in this way. And then in the end, that's how we get this outcome. If I go back to our little example here, we get this qualification lead. And so this person will have been scored just like this. And so the AI has made a whole bunch of decisions and given them a score and then written some notes about it for us. So it's taken it all the way from, hey, we got the initial inquiry all the way through to it's in the system and it's giving us some insight about it. And I thought that might be a workflow that would kind of be useful for everybody else to see.